What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and if you're a fan of Destiny like me, the best way to explain my experience with that game franchise and the studio that makes it, in this case being Bungie, is nothing short of a headache at the best of times. Destiny 2 is a very fun game. The shooting mechanics are great, the lore is deep, and the music is good. And generally speaking, when it isn't being hacked, exploited, or crashing, the game is pretty enjoyable. Besides its terrible monetization and in recent years of making sure content doesn't over-deliver in order to not set unrealistic expectations going forward, which is complete bullshit by the way. Bungie is, unfortunately, also very woke when it comes to social justice. So in this video, I'll cover how Bungie recently got dogpiled by the entire internet for pandering, and how things like this only keep proving what myself and many others keep saying, which is that this culture war is full of corporate entities that pander in any way they can in order to maximize profits behind the guise of social justice. And it's not just Bungie that's doing this, mind you, but I'll get into that later on. To start, let's look at what inspired this video, which is recently Bungie decided to post something on Twitter about how they're celebrating the diversity of their Latinx employees. Honestly, I don't even know if Latinx is how it's even pronounced, but since it's nonsense anyway, this kind of proves already from the get-go that this was doomed to fail. So I'm just gonna call it Latinx. If I'm wrong, I don't care because the term is stupid to begin with. Anyway, I figure before I tear into this, we actually hear what Bungie has to say to get the full context. They start by saying being Latina, Latin, Latino, Latinx is more than just a location on a map, just as being Hispanic is more than the language we might speak. We are proud to introduce our newest idea, Latin at Bungie, and they go on to further say, and I quote, "Hispanic Heritage Month is underway, and we are proud to introduce one of our newest Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Association, aka IDEA, Latin at Bungie. IDEAs are employees' resource groups to help Bungie employees connect with people of similar cultural backgrounds and their supportive allies. These groups serve as a resource for advice, a forum to share thoughts and perspectives, and a way to amplify and celebrate cultures not only in person but also in our games. Latin at Bungie first began in 2022 as a way to celebrate our identity, acknowledge our different experiences, help educate the Bungie community about Latin and Hispanic culture, and support our local communities. Ultimately, we aim to improve Latin culture representation in our games and bolster the representation of employees with a Latin or Hispanic background in our company. In turn, we hope that the result in better connections between our games and our gamers. As a group, we embrace that our culture is rich and diverse. We celebrate that the ties that bind us are wide-reaching and well beyond any monolithic assumptions that society might have about people who are Latin and Hispanic. Being Latina, Latin, Latino, Latinx is more than just a location on a map, just as being Hispanic is more than the language we might speak. It is important for us to dive deeper into not only what unifies us, but how we can grow as a culture to be more inclusive and equitable, such as championing racial injustice, women's rights, and LGBTQIA+ causes. We look forward to sharing our initiatives with you in the months and years to come. We hope that through our Latin at Bungie efforts, we can have a positive impact in our global community, our company, and our games." End quote. Holy crap, that was a lot to say. This post, while good-hearted, I guess, is going over about as well as you'd expect when it comes to this kind of stuff, with people like George and Zuby clowning on Bungie, and even bounding into comics ripping them by saying, "Today I learned Hispanic is a language." But I think the most poignant tweet on here is from this one user who says, "I'd rather you just call me a slur. It's Latino and Latina, that's it." So, what the hell is happening? Well, this is yet another company pandering and bending over backwards so hard to appease people that it's absolutely blasting them in their faces instead. I've always said in many of my videos that trying to appease the woke crowd is always going to be impossible. You can't appease activists who live within a weird, almost cult-like echo chamber like this, because these echo chambers are not designed as safe spaces, but instead they are, like I said, cults. But the only way to stay within the cult is by agreeing with and championing the same things these weirdos believe. And the sad reality that I think Bungie is seeing here is that by bending over to appease that weirdo cult, all you're really doing is allowing yourself to be attacked for pushing shit that's nonsense to begin with. Because the woke echo chamber is designed in a disingenuous way from the get-go. Everyone in it will virtue signal as much as they can in order to seem more virtuous than those around them. And the desire by these psychos to be considered the alpha woke savior means they're willing to step over and devour each other, if it means they get even an inch closer to the top of the pyramid. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that being a part of or championing these sorts of things is a losing battle with no real desirable outcome. You simply keep pandering until you die, or you eventually step out of line just once, and that's all it'll take before all of your supposed allies turn on you and eat you whole for stepping out of line. The woke echo chamber is not a forgiving or loving place. No matter how many rainbows and bright imagery or cute words these people use, it is what it is. It's a new religion, and you're either with the religion or you're ousted and excommunicated for not believing hard enough. This brings us to the nonsensical identifying of Latino people as Latinx. Look, I'm not Latin myself, but I can tell you that based on the people I know who are a part of that demographic, whenever you jokingly bring up the term Latinx, they either roll their eyes or they call it stupid. Because in this new age, companies and annoying individuals only see power and merit by smashing barriers that they so desperately need you to believe are there in the first place. It's sort of like how some people will say a white guy in a sombrero is cultural appropriation. But if you actually ask any normal person whose culture has sombreros, they will just tell you it's funny and that they like it. This very weird, almost, how do I put this, racial sectioning of what can be appreciated or said based on your identity is just nonsense. Of course, some things should be respected, like if you're not a black person, you should probably not say a certain word, for example. But if you're someone who says a white or Asian person is racist for enjoying food outside of their culture, you're insane to me. Because as someone who's Serbian, I would love it if more people tried the food of my people. Because stuff like cevape are amazing. I wouldn't be offended if I saw someone who wasn't Serbian wearing the traditional outfit pertaining to my culture either. If anything, if you see someone doing this, they're likely just excited to be experiencing your culture. It's not racist. But in the eyes of people like Bungie and others, unfortunately, these things are always problematic. That's why they worded in their little Latinx article that the entire idea of the initiative is to bring people together within Bungie and outside with their culture. But in a way, these movements are designed to create safe spaces within companies, which if anything, it'll just segregate people more. Again, with the Latinx thing, it's just stupid. No Latin person wants to be referred to as Latinx. It's basically just a corporate buzzword made by woke white people to feel better about themselves. It would be like me taking offense unless you refer to me as Serbix instead of Serbian, so that my identity is now more inclusive or something. It's so unnecessary and it's downright stupid. And this kind of crap isn't even unique to Bungie. Since so many companies and creators push this shit so often these days, you just know none of it is being done for genuine reasons. It's all being done to push narratives and, like I said earlier, out-woke the other woke people around them. Take, for example, the new Wonder Woman comic, where Tom King is writing it, which really should be all I need to say about this, but for those who don't know, Tom King is insanely woke. Anyway, he's writing Wonder Woman, and he said that he wanted to give the character her own Joker-level villain. This led Tom King to create a new villain called the Sovereign. He's basically the ruler of the United States who controls it from the shadows. And he uses his lasso of lies to make people follow his agenda. You can probably see where Tom King is going with this. But it also turns out this Sovereign character is also an old white guy who champions misogyny and he hates minorities. So, basically Tom King took what his echo chamber of woke weirdos parrot, and the lies they spew about everyone who doesn't agree with them, from Donald Trump, Matt Walsh, and many others that they hate, threw them in a stew, and they cooked up the Sovereign. So this villain is literally Make America Great Again in supervillain form. I'm not making this up. You can go Google it. I wish I was lying to you, but unfortunately I'm not. The Sovereign even wears a cloak-like armor adorned with various medals and symbols to make him seem like some Nazi general. It's so painfully obvious what Tom King is going for here, and it's boring, and it's overdone, and it's a status quo for today. What I'm trying to explain here is that studios like Bungie with their Latinx nonsense, or the super evil Trump in the form of the Sovereign, are the same boring, shitty ideas that these woke corporations and the people within them just keep on pushing. There's no nuance anymore, no blurring of ideological lines. Everything has to be neatly presented as us versus them, liberal versus conservative, Latino versus Latinx. It's all designed to properly show to the others within their echo chambers that they are the supposed good guys. And the ones who push back against their ideologies that represent their cult are the enemy. And also in terms of Bungie, they've went down the Overwatch route when it comes to their characters too. So many of Destiny's characters are either some kind of gay or gender fluid nonsense now. And while Bungie might say they're doing this to represent everyone, the reality is that a lot of these deliberate pushes towards framing everything through gender and political ideologies all exploded once concepts like ESG were conceived and required of these companies. Because prior to the need for ESG, Bungie just created stories with characters within them. You had characters like Sarge, who was a black man, but that didn't define who he was really. He was a no-nonsense soldier who was so dry he was funny no matter what he said. And you had characters like Miranda Keyes in charge of battalions in Halo, long before concepts like ESG were even championed. Miranda being a woman or Sarge being black didn't feel tacked on or done in order to seem diverse, it just felt natural. Seeing Osiris, an old Egyptian man in love with a robot Saint 14 is like, of course they're gay. Why would they be anything but gay at this point? And you just have to take one look at the newer characters like Nimbus and the old guy whose name I already forgot, and it's just more of this typical agenda pushing. Here's your new non-binary hero, I guess. And the old white guy who ends up dying very shortly after you meet him. Which, spoilers I guess, but it doesn't matter anyway because straight white old guy is barely even a character to begin with. These things, like the Latinx nonsense and more, are simply being pushed to appease echo chambers, ESG scores, and out virtue signal their peers. Why do the Hispanic people at Bungie need to have an initiative to help them come together? I wonder if there's an equivalent at Bungie for white employees of European descent. I would wager there isn't, and this brings another very tiring concept to the table as well. And that is that these woke corporations feel the need to herd and help their non-white employees on purpose, as if leaving them to their own devices and initiatives is somehow not enough. These woke corporations and studios always seem to go out of their way to help people of diversity, but it always comes across to me anyway as a weird white savior way instead. Like, look at all of these Latinx people we have at Bungie. In order to heal our white guilt that we've been programmed to feel, we will now spend company resources and make symbols to herd our diversity employees? By segregating and ensuring everyone who is involved thinks, looks, and acts the same. This will truly help our studio and not at all create walls and treat people differently within our company. It's just all so weird to me. Finally, to end this video, I just want to prove to you that these corporations only push these things in order to meet quotas. Like how Netflix and Disney were crowned for creating the most content in 2022 with LGBTQ narratives within them. The company that lobbies this responsibility index, as they put it, is called GLAAD. And they simply exist to make sure companies are chucking as much diversity and wokeness into their media as possible. Apparently, around 28.5% of the content released in 2022 was LGBTQ centric, which is the highest in years. And while that's all well and good, I guess, the truth is that this pandering is not resulting in profits. So while Disney might be getting patted on the back for this, it's losing them billions because, like Bungie and their Latinx nonsense, audiences are seeing right through the corporate nonsense. The very existence of a responsibility index proves that these things are not being done for genuine reasons, but they're simply being done to meet quotas. And it's the same when Bungie does this Latinx crap. They don't actually believe in it. They don't really care, because if they did care, they wouldn't feel compelled to push this kind of stuff, and they would simply just treat their Hispanic employees with the same respect and integrity as they do with their other employees. But by giving special treatment to people because of their skin color or ethnicity, it's just disingenuous, it's pathetic, it's insulting, and it's rightfully being clowned on by the internet at large. Companies do need to do better, and by better, I mean they need to stop treating people like prize puppies and just see everyone as human beings. their ethnic backgrounds, what they enjoy in the sack, and whatever flags they make in order to make themselves seem more unique, it's all pointless. Stop treating people like data or as little children that need to be saved or something. Stop calling people Latinx. Stop parroting the same bullshit so your echo chamber doesn't swallow you whole. And until that happens, when these companies bend over backwards to appease, the best course of action we can and should all do is just shake our heads and laugh. Because it's not genuine, and to be frank with you, it's all rather insulting, really. And that's the biggest shame of it all. Anyway, thank you for watching, subscribe for more in the future, like the video, and have a great day. Let me know what you think as always, and I'll see you in the next one.